Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on martial politics. Yet again, I will be discussing economic policy, and I'll be discussing the distributist policies of Senator Huey Long of Louisiana. So recently, the reason I'm making this video is because I've recently become very interested in Huey Long. I'm reading a book about him currently, called Kingfish, and he he was a very dedicated and enthusiastic populist in America, and his message really resonated with a lot of Americans. And he was going to run for president against Franklin Roosevelt, but he was assassinated, probably most likely politically based. Um, but yeah, I've been actively reading Kingfish, and there's a lot of certain things he did that some people might not like his more authoritarian methods of seizing power in the state of Louisiana, and some other things like just massively running up the state debt. Like there's like the deficit hawks, and then a bunch of other people who will scream and cry over this. But anyways, the most important thing about Huey Long that I will be discussing is his promise to redistribute wealth in the United States. And as he said, he believed that the Great Depression had started because of an inadequate, basically, the wealth in the United States wasn't dispersed properly, and because of that, the you let the very few at the top basically run the economy to ruin. That's basically what his argument was. Um, yeah. Anyways, so Long proposed bold populist policies, and uh, the bold populist policies, as I discussed, it really wasn't like it was really wasn't seen in the United States during this time, and obviously no one really supported this. His legislation in the Senate never got any more than 15 votes, and but he had massive popular support. He would get thousands of letters every week, and he had to make a new different office just to handle all the mail that was sent to him when he was United States Senator. And there was two trucks that would come to the United States Senate to deliver mail, and they had one entire truck dedicated to delivering Huey Long's letters that were addressed to him. I mentioned the reason I mentioned his wolf distribute redistribution policies is because just like in the 1930s, we also have a vast, very vast economic divide between the top 15-20% and the rest of the country. And this really is a problem, and these problems have only been amplified by the coronavirus economic lockdowns. And I disagree with the lockdowns vehemently. And I think they're just a tool for the ruling class to maintain their power. But that's why I think that this is controversial to standard right wing thought. But I think that wealth redistribution is what is needed, is one of the things that are needed in the United States right now to make our country a better place, and allow for everyone to be a king, every man a king, of course, but no one wears his crown. Um, thing is, not like left wing progressives. Um, I want to redistribute wealth between America's citizens, based on class, not by race, which is what the idiotic left wing supposed populists want. They're not populists at all, by the way. There's, as I discussed in previous video, they're just a tool for the ruling class. But yeah, they want to redistribute based off wealth. I want to redistribute wealth based on class, not by race, which is It's ridiculous. Um, by class, but important by class and by people who actually belong in the United States. Because obviously there's a lot of poor illegal immigrants in the United States, and obviously they shouldn't even be here. Um, should be automatically deported. But yes, I want to redistribute wealth to America's legal citizens who are facing uh, really hard economic times. As I'm recording this video, things have really gotten worse. This pandemic these lockdowns have been going on for almost a year, and it really is astonishing how long it has lasted. I remember the day it started, and I was like, oh, it was just like a few weeks to flatten the curve. 16 or 14 days to curb the stop the curve or whatever. But obviously that didn't happen. And here we are 1 year later, and the economic divide between the first class and all the other classes has greatly expanded. It's basically like a massive ravine, essentially, as you could say. And now these plans, I think that if you are an actual right-wing populist, this is a plan that you should actually support because you're doing multiple things with this. You're strengthening the American family, which I think is the most essential thing to a functioning society. Individually, we're not really that powerful, but once we, join together and create families, that's how societies originate, and we need to emphasize that. And I think that if we do implement these wealth redistribution policies, it will greatly help American families who are, again, struggling very hard during these times. And you're going to have, some different groups of people who oppose this for different reasons. I mean, I could imagine a neoliberal argument saying, oh, you just want to redistribute it to white people. Oh, those people. Really, the neoliberals are literally the cancer of society. They really are. But, yeah, you also have, the fiscal cons, and they'll argue, the national debt or whatever. Meanwhile, the Fed can basically print an infinite amount of money. We're not really in danger of, you know, overrunning our budgets or yeah, it's just complete. It's this fiscal con propaganda that people actually believe in, but really, it isn't. It's not right. But anyways, a lot of people will call it socialism when you could say it's socialism because you would be using the government to enforce this, but the thing is, it's more of like a government power kind of thing, and it's distributism, which isn't necessarily socialism, really. Um, it's kind of complicated, but I'm not going to get into that. We can. The thing is, again, I want to repeat this. I've said in previous videos that government power can be used for good, and I think this is one of the best examples where we can actually use government power for good, and actually help American citizens, and make America a better place. Now, anyways, um, you also have other libertarians who say it's an overreach of government power. What do I say to that, people? Shut your mouth. You're a tool for the establishment. Ruling class. Yeah. Just, it's the, also you have, it's the same people that want the nationwide legalization of marijuana, gays to be free or whatever, corrupting our society, prostitution, which undermines the American family, and the abolition of, tax codes, which would basically affirm the corporate oligarchy. That's what the libertarians. Almost the same thing on the left as well, but there's like some differences. But yeah, we do need to read it. If we do attempt to redistribute wealth in America, we also have to do it very thoroughly. Now, we can't perform this wealth distribution under our current governmental system. I would propose um, multiple constitutional amendments to allow for the government to do this. But uh, yeah, that's actually what Huey Long did as well when he was governor of Louisiana. He would pass state amendments to the state constitution to allow him to pass new taxes. Let me think of a specific example, like the 5 cent. Oh yeah, 5 cent petroleum tax, and some other stuff that he wouldn't be able to do under current state law. Um, yes, Huey Long's plan. I'll go more into detail of what it was. Uh, Essentially, it would cap personal income at $1 million a year. Today, that'd be much much higher. Obviously, all these numbers are in you know early 1930s amounts. I'd have to do more research on the exact amounts that would be today, but I'm just saying like basis for this plan. But anyways, every American family would get, I think it was $4,000 each, and they get things to maintain that home, furniture, lights, running water, stuff like that. And they'd also get, consumer goods like automobiles and radios and other things. No, as I said, of course, this would be much different today. But I think if you look at the basis for this plan, I think it is what is really needed today in the United States. But yes. Also, another thing that would need to happen for this plan to be implemented is vast reform of the American tax code and slashing of taxes for America's middle class, and massive tax hike for like the top 10 to 15% of um, the population that controls all the wealth. Now, you'd also need new government departments. Again, as I said, you need a vast like redistribution of power to a new group of people. Um, and yeah, this will not work in our current government system. Um, you need some very, very, intense and crucial event to happen that would really change who holds power in American society, or at least lead to that change where power is in American society. Now, I think the most interesting thing about Huey Long's Share the Wolf program is his justification for it. Now, you had people during these times, they'd call him a fascist or a communist, socialist, etc. Now, here's this quote he said that I find really interesting, and it's, "I never read a line of Marx or Henry George, or any of them economists. It's all in the law of God." Now, that is actually absolutely correct, and that is what is proposed in the Bible. It essentially is economic populism. Jesus really hated rich people who would, keep the wealth to themselves and not care for the poor who live under God. Now, of course, um, we should help our people. We should, ensure that they live, decent, happy lives, or the average person can live a decent life. Now, another important thing I find in his plan that it's very striking today. He he also supported a $30 pension per month. I think, yeah, per month for needy people over 60 years of age, and something that's very relevant to modern American society. Let me go to this. It was a war on disease, insanity, and drug addiction. Now, that is very, very, very interesting. Huey Long really actually hated, gambling, smoking drugs. He didn't. He claimed to like, oppose, like, consumption of alcohol. Well, obviously you drink quite a lot of alcohol, but uh, it really is interesting for the justification of this plan. Now, what I term this and what Eight Values has basically identified me as is a theocratic distributist. Uh, Now, it's the motive I'm talking about here that, all people that live under God, they deserve, a set amount of wealth to live a happy and decent life. Now, this philosophy, I think, is can be very, very important to the future of right-wing populists because it combines economic issues and it combines more of social issues as well. And I think that's the correct fusion we need between, these two issues that, you know, some people, more people seem to be more concerned about, social issues. And I think we can use this justification as an advantage to basically attract, more of those people who are religious. And there actually are people who seriously do support this. I saw a clip of some televangelists saying that they take away wealth from large corporations and give it to the poor. Um, and I'll actually I'll include that video in uh, the link in the as a link in the description that you guys can check that out. Um, but anyways, I kind of went off on that, but once the economic base solution has been created, which is what I'm discussing here, we mix in social policies, which are essentially catalysts, which will react with, you know, the economic base solution, and it will make a better society in turn. And some of these policies that we can include paid family leave, $15 minimum wage, but the thing is, that's very complicated at this current time. I think once these lockdowns have ended, we can discuss that further. I'll actually make a video about that in the future. But a nationwide ban on abortion, fighting the opioid epidemic, child tax credit, affordable housing, the banning of all pornography, and these family policies will really make America a much better place to live in, and it will help us, return to, that happy, stable society that there kind of was in the 1950s. Obviously, there was some problems in the 1950s, but there were a lot of good things during that time. And that was when we had a very, actually, we had a very efficient tax code that would tax the rich according to how much wealth they maintain. Uh, but anyways, if you are a true uh, America First or right wing populist, whatever you want to call it, if you are one of those people, you should support this plan. Now, I hope that this video will be important in convincing some people who may not know too much about this issue or maybe want to learn more or are on the other side of the argument who oppose this. Um, I do hope you take in what I said and maybe change your mind more about this issue. And yes, I will now play a speech made by Huey Long in December of 1934. And yes, play the video and have a good day, everyone.
According to the tables which we have assembled, it is our estimate that 4% of the American people own 85% of the wealth of America, and that over 70% of the people of America don't own enough to pay the debts that they owe. How many men ever went to a barbecue and would let one man take off the table what's intended for 9/10 of the people to eat? The only way you'll ever be able to feed the balance of the people is to make that man come back and bring back some of that grub he ain't got no business with. how are you going to feed the balance of the people? What's Morgan and Baruch and Rockefeller and Mellon going to do with all that grub? They can't eat it. They can't wear the clothes. They can't live in the house. Give them a yacht. Give them a palace. Send them to Reno and give them a new wife when they want it. If that's what they want. But when they've got everything on the God's living earth that they can eat and they can wear and they can live in, and all that their children can live in and wear and eat and all their children's children can use, then we got to call Mr. Morgan and Mr. Mellon and Mr. Rockefeller back and say, come back here. Put that stuff back on this table here that you took away from here, that you don't need. Leave something else for the American people to consume. And that's the program. We're not going to destroy the Gulf Refining Company. We're not going to destroy the Standard Oil Company. But we're going to say that the limit of any one man's stock ownership in the Standard Oil Company is from $3 to $5 million to that individual, and that the balance of the people of America own the balance of what the Standard Oil Company is worth. All right. Then, we start from the bottom, that the 25 or more million American families shall have a homestead, a home, and the comforts of a home, including an automobile and a radio, the things it takes in that house to live on. We say to America, 125 million, none shall be too big, none shall be too poor, none shall work too much, none shall be idle. No luxurious mansions empty, none walking the streets, none impoverished, none in pestilence, none in want, but in the land blessed by the smile of the Creator, with everything to be consumed, to be eaten, to be worn, that America will become a land sharing the fruits of the land, not for the favored few, not to satisfy greed, but that all may live in a land in which the Lord has provided an abundance sufficient for the luxury and convenience of the people in general, I think.
Or slumber, America, land of brave and true, with castles and clothing and food for all belongs to you. Every man a king, every man a king, for you can be a millionaire. That's fine. But there's something belonging to others. There's enough for all people to share. When it's sunny June and December too, or in the winter time or spring, there'll be peace without end. Every nation